Well. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, boys and girls. I can't believe anyone that's watching, really. Welcome back to season two, episode three, I believe it is, gentlemen. How are we today, Andy?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Yourself?
Oh, mate, just living the dream, brother. Living the dream. It's a beautiful day here in Tamaki Makaurau in the beautiful Aotearoa. So I'm looking outside at some sunshine. I'm pretty excited about that. Des, mate, how are you getting on there, buddy? You're looking pretty zippy, really.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty zen, ready to go.
Nice. Tell you what, big show today. Big show today. Quite excited. I don't know why. I think I get excited every show, really. So, not a lot going on there. So, hey, listen. A couple of things. Just a quick reminder. Our mates at Brightstar. I tell you what, have you guys actually jumped onto the Brightstar website and seen the number of events this organization pulls together? Absolutely amazing. I can't fathom it, mate. I can barely organize this show once a fortnight, let alone the number of events they organise. It's absolutely amazing. But listen, the one event that we are super excited about, and that's because we're going to be there, is the National Health and Safety Leaders Summit. Which is pretty exciting, coming up on the 19th and 20th of March. Now, we will be there as the chairs of the National Health and Safety Leaders Summit in Ellerslie, Auckland. We will be facilitating the proceedings, I believe, is how it's been described. Hey, just really quickly, guys, I don't think they're on, so I'm hoping they're not watching this, but do you think they know what they've got themselves in for? Like,
They got no idea what's coming. No idea.
I'll tell you what, I hope they've kind of passed it on to the phenomenal range of speakers, which we'll touch on a little bit later on in the show, but I really hope that on to them because it's going to be chaos. Talking about chaos, I think, listen, I think we need to just get into it. So before we go any further, as always, Des, can we get you to take it away, mate?
Sure can. And look, the chat last fortnight about slogans made me think about the different ways safety has been marketed. And sometimes you'll see a character or a hero. And I remember in Western Australia, there was a Think Safe Sam. And I wondered why we don't do the same thing for disclaiming. And so I thought the Circus of Safety could have some disclaiming superheroes. So the first character's name is Lotta Advice, and she gained her superpowers in the military, where she attained the rank of general. General Advice speaks generalist information, and her superpower is not being relied upon in any specific circumstance. The next superhero is Professor Special X. This character gives all of the specialist advice specific to everyone's circumstance. The professor's superpower is not turning up to any Circus of Safety show. The last superhero, and my favourite, is Captain Hindsight. He is a specialist character who arrives after someone has applied general information to their specific circumstances. His superpower is telling them they shouldn't have done that. So let's see how that goes.
Oh, fantastic.
Back
Awesome. Mate, I tell you what, I can see a whole spin-off of memes and characters coming off that one. So great marketing ploy there, Dave. Not that we're here to market anything, I guess. Just did anyone mention the National Health and Safety Leaders Summit, 19th, 20th of March in Ellerslie, Auckland. But yeah, so great work. That's fantastic, Des. Now, listen, I know there's a period of time where you're getting a little bit of kind of heat on the disclaimers. Has the general mood of the public kind of really warmed up to the disclaiming, the disclaiming differently that you've adopted?
Yeah, I think people have generally warmed up to the idea. Now, that's locally within our audience, but when I head to the disclaiming conference in Geneva later this year, I might get a different reception. Who knows?
Oh, man, I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully, we can tee up some live streams from Geneva. That's going to be super exciting, and no doubt you'll come back with a fountain of knowledge. Listen, Andy, how's life treating you in the in? I'm a little bit low for business. The business of snake oil. I mean, consulting.
It's going very well, very well. Some interesting work going on. One thing that is becoming more and more common is I'm doing more and more coaching and mentoring, which is really good. And I'm basically trying out some new ideas on our in-house safety advisor.
Oh yes, Oliver. How is young Oliver?
He's doing well. He did his health and safety reps course. Didn't really like it very much.
Oh.
So he said it was too much sitting around and not enough doing.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I thought we'd go out and we'd do some safety walks this week. So we've gone out and we've done some safety walks, and we're looking for hazards and things, and it's been really good. He did spot a sign, and he was a bit confused by what it meant.
Oh.
And it was a sign, and it said high hazard.
High hazard.
Yeah, it was a sign on the footpath, and it said high hazard. And we stood there for quite a while and looked upwards and weren't really sure what the high hazard was.
Oh, really? I mean, young Oliver, he's really been coming in leaps and bounds, and I would have thought if anyone could have deciphered such a riddle, it would have been him.
So feel free to give us some feedback. So I really don't know what a high hazard is.
Okay, well, to help us with a few clues, Andy, high, how was that spelt? As in HIGH or
HIGH? Yeah, high.
High.
Yeah.
Oh, as in high.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. That might have been more appropriate.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. So, listen, if any of our audience, if any of our audience out there know what a high hazard is, because clearly we don't, which is why you do not take anything on the show with a grain of salt. It'd be great to let us know. Oh, Des, listen, I've got to start the show on a positive note, mate, because I know you've been getting a bit of flack, and Andy and I have actually been talking a bit about you over the coming week, about you, not to you, and we kind of feel a bit bad for you, really. I mean, we all know that thanks to Sign On Site, I'm powered show in, show out, right? It's just amazing. Thanks to my team and my mates there at Sign On Site, absolutely stunning. You know, Andy, he gets paid to do nothing, so he's sponsored.
No. I just like to say I'm using a new laptop today, kindly provided by Metanoia Safety Limited. So
wow!
Just a big shout out to the generosity of the director of Metanoia Safety, Andy Evans.
That's awesome! Wow! Hey, big shout out to Andy. Hang on, is that not you?
Great guy.
Great guy. So listen, I just want to start the show with a bit of positive feedback for you, Des, because we feel that you're the poorly cousin. You're the one that I wouldn't say nobody likes. That's probably a step too far, but you're the one that we, you know, we just want to.
Where's this going, Brenton?
We just want some love for Des. So listen, if anyone wants to support Des in any way, shape, or form, feel free. Des is open to bribery, corruption, and sponsorship. He would love some support. But listen, before we can get you some financial support, Des, what we've got is Matthew Sadgrove posting some phenomenal feedback here. Des, I think your disclaimers are fantastic. A highlight in the show.
What?
A highlight in the show. I think you may have inadvertently just described the different safety tribe chiefs. Wow. This is awesome. Clearly, Matthew listens to the entire show because the standard of the rest of the show goes downhill from about here. So there we go, Des. You're doing some great work, and Andy and I were deciding we'd love to see you recognised for that work. So listen, if anyone would like to support Des in any way, shape, or form, get in touch with me, and I will sign his life away for that. But hey, listen, enough about Des. We'll keep harping on about Des all show because he is the anchor. He is the rock. He is our guiding light here at Circus of Safety. So, but listen, let's get into it. You see, he's even crying. He's so flattered. But as always, boys, we're super excited about the wheel.
Absolutely, always excited by the wheel.
Yeah.
Hey, Des,
I'm
I
hoping
know.
one of my topics can come up for a change.
Oh, here's hoping, right? I mean, you've put a few on there, and it's not like we rigged this. It's not like this is planned at all. But we don't seem to learn anything. Now, what I've noticed, we are whittling the wheel down, which is good because it means that the topics are um, getting less and less, which means Des, hopefully you're going to win big today. Really hoping for you. So are we ready to spin the wheel, boys?
Spin that wheel.
Let's
Here
do
we
it.
go. Oh, Des, do you want me to spin it again, mate?
I'm just going to switch my microphone off so you don't hear the expletives that are about to come out.
Yeah, please do turn your mic off, Des, because when I upload this to Spotify, I do say it's family friendly. So if you're going to start expletives, that'll be great. Hey, well, there we go, team. The topic of today. Love the feedback from anyone out there listening. Oh wow, that was a disappointing level of spin. Okay, Marcus, we're gonna have to work on that, mate. But
I agree,
risk
Marcus.
versus hazard
I agree.
management. You see, this is one of the disadvantages of inviting your colleagues from work to tune in. You start getting comments like that. But risk versus hazard management, Andy. I know this is your topic of yours. One word, sentence, paragraph, or anything similar to describe your excitement or otherwise about said topic.
About time it came up. I can't believe we've got this far into the show. Series 2, episode 3, and this has just come up when really this is what every other show should have been about.
Wow, that might have been a step too far, but that's okay. Des, you mate, what is your? Have you got? Well, firstly, have you got the expletives out of the way?
Yeah, almost. There might be a few that slip out during the show, but
what one word, sentence, paragraph, or otherwise to describe your excitement or otherwise about said topic, risk versus hazard management?
So my first thought is that it is an important distinction to make and to understand.
Okay,
that was it.
I guess. Yep, awesome.
And what about you, Brenton? What do you think?
I'm gonna kind of land in the middle, I think, on this one. I definitely think it's a topic that needs to be discussed. I think my thoughts are it is about time, because I think arguably this is the foundation of what we do, right? So it'd be really cool to thrash this out a little bit, and kind of see where we land on it. So let's jump over to you, Des. Risk versus hazard management. I mean, when you hear those two terms, what is your understanding of it? I don't know. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Just walk us through your thoughts.
I think that there is a distinction there, which is often not made by a lot of practitioners. But hazard management is a lot of things to do with the stored energy wheel and looking at how people can get harmed, whereas risk management is more of an enterprise type exercise where you might be looking at risk and opportunity. I think both instances you're probably going to be using some sort of risk assessment or risk analysis, so the tools will be similar, but they are different. They are different. I think Andy might be able to offer up some better explanations and definitions than me.
Cool. Andy?
Yeah, so
I guess Des lead you into that, mate. What are your thoughts?
This. So are we talking about risk versus hazard management, or risk management versus hazard management? There's two different things there.
Do we need to go and define? Define it? So the topic that came up on the wheel, Andy, just for clarity for you, is risk versus hazard management. So
when we wrote that, did we mean risk management versus hazard management, though?
Well, Matt, I don't know. You wrote it, so why are you asking me what you?
Because it was a long time ago, and I'm old.
Well, how do you want it to work? Well, I guess that's a good starting point, right?
Yeah,
What do you
I guess
want it to mean?
that's what the discussion should be about. So
Okay,
is
well,
there a
let's go
difference
that way
between,
then.
okay, let's start with basics. Is there a difference between a hazard and a risk? There you go. I'll throw it back to you guys.
Yes.
Yes. Hey, who's in charge?
Yes.
Who's running the show? Me or you?
Well, you.
Who's asking the questions? What do you think? Is there a difference, Andy? Hazard versus risk. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is a difference between a hazard and risk. But
Okay, well, would you
a
like to
hazard
maybe...
and a risk can be the same thing. And this is where the language of safety becomes incredibly important, I think. So in my mind, a hazard is quite simply a source of energy. It's a thing. Risk isn't a thing. It's an abstract concept.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the dictionary when it finally comes. Hazard is a thing, risk is not a thing.
Yeah.
High tech here, mate.
It's going to be great.
Tech. But that's incredible. But actually, that's incredibly helpful. That's incredibly helpful when you're doing hazard ID exercises. Is it a thing? Yeah, then it's a hazard.
Yep.
Is it not a thing? It's not a hazard.
Well, we do like to keep things simple. So okay. Well, let me put it this way then. If we stick with the term risk versus hazard management, it kind of to me sounds. And Des, your disclaimer, mate, was on cue. Superheroes, right? Absolutely awesome. And so risk versus hazard management, Andy, which one's better? I mean, risk versus if you were to get into the ring with a hazard and a risk and bash it out, who would win?
I'm not sure. It all depends on context. So I think generally we identify hazards in safety. We identify hazards, then we assess the risk associated with that hazard. So the reality is we generally manage risk. We don't manage the hazard, but we can manage the hazard. But we manage the risk that the hazard poses. Okay,
no, fair enough. So what I'm getting at is at the moment it's almost it's almost a tie by the sounds of it. If we're gonna kind of give it a scorecard. I mean, Des, your thoughts? I mean, are you aligned there with Andy? It'd be disappointing if you were. Do you agree with what he's saying?
Sorry to disappoint, but I think I do. A hazard is definitely a physical thing, and a risk is a non-physical thing. And you can talk about the risk of a hazard. Yeah, to me, it's quite uncontroversial.
Well, okay, so clearly we're which is fascinating, right? Because this is such a foundation of what we do, and it's great to see Matthew Sagrove really jumping in here. Thanks, Matthew, because clearly Andy's struggling to articulate his topic.
No, I can articulate it beautifully. I just wanted to give you opportunity to speak.
Well, mate, that's not what the people are saying. So Matthew's jumping in there too, and I think he kind of aligns with what you're going on about there. So to get things moving here. Isn't the hazard the thing? And I think that's what you've been harping on about, Andy, for a little bit there. And Des agrees with you. And the risk is your relationship with the thing. So, which again is along the same sort of lines as what you're talking about, right? But I guess what I'm asking, and I just kind of maybe, well, if you just give me a yes or no answer, it kind of makes the show pretty short. But is managing then the hazard better than managing the risk? Andy.
Potentially, because the only way you can eliminate the risk is by eliminating the hazard. So therefore, if you can manage the hazard and get rid of it, then you've eliminated any risk. If you can't do that, then you can't manage the hazard. You end up managing the risk. So I think Matthew's made a good point. I broadly agree with it. I think the relationship with the thing isn't quite right. And the way to think of risk in safety is to think of it as a measurement. Like distance. Yep. So no one's ever been hurt by distance, right? No one's ever been killed by a centimeter. And you can say that no one's ever been hurt by a risk. It's the hazard that hurts you, which is a really key point here. If I ask you the question, what's the distance? You can't give me an answer because it's a stupid question. But if I said, what's the distance from point A to point B, then you could give me a distance. You've got context. And it's the same with risk. Risk exists between 2 points. It's the risk of this leading to this. And once we understand that, then we can start to do safety. But until we start to understand and appreciate that, we end up using risk to mean the same thing as a hazard, which causes no end of confusion in organizations. So ideally, you manage the hazard by getting rid of it. If you can't do that, then you are managing the risk associated with that hazard.
So, and Andy, please feel free to jump in here as I move this conversation over to Dee. So I picked up on something you said there, and I'm just going to kind of hang you by it. Because got to have a little bit of fun, right? You said that we can't eliminate the risk unless we eliminate the hazard, right? Do you agree with that statement? That a risk cannot be eliminated unless the hazard is?
I think it makes sense. Yeah. I'm just if you're managing the hazard, aren't you? Isn't that just another way of managing the risk of the hazard?
Well, the risk of the hazard, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. And this is where it becomes a linguistic nightmare, because the word risk means so many different things, and we've got to be very careful how we use it. I often advise people not to use it at all in safety. It makes safety better.
Wow. Okay. So we're now championing for the removal of a word out of the safety dictionary. So would that suggest then, Andy, that when we develop, I shouldn't say when you develop this safety dictionary, the word risk possibly will not be sitting in there?
No, it will be in there, but it will be about 86 pages because there's that many different definitions of it.
Oh wow. Okay. No, fair enough. So okay. So if we go, the hazard is the thing, right? It's a physical thing. I don't disagree with you on that. And I guess the risk is, the relationship, as Matthew has kind of pointed out, or the risk is the thing that, I guess, the interaction or the way you're interacting with it creates the risk with that hazard. Would it be fair to say then a hazard, we could pick a number of them, but you pick a hazard, could have obviously multiple risks associated with it? Would that be a fair call?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So then, and I guess the other part that gets confusing is how far back are we taking the term hazard, right? So you see a lot of terminology when people start talking about hazards, and are we getting confused with hazard categories as well? So people tend to, what we've got to say, Andy, jump in here if I'm missing any, but people talk about energies when it comes to hazards. I think it's a big thing now. Chazans is jumping on the bandwagon, talking about energies. We're talking about chemicals. Is that far enough back, or is that too far back when we start talking about hazards, or should we be talking about things more appropriate to the actual context of the environment, like a chair, for example, in that context? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how far back do we take the term hazard, or how far forward do we bring it?
Oh, it depends on what you're trying to achieve within the organizational context. But fundamentally, like, your hazards tend not to change much. So like on your sites, your hazards on today will be pretty much the same as the hazards tomorrow, right? Height's still height tomorrow. Electricity is still electricity tomorrow. They don't really change. So, and we know we know how to control those things. So there's no mystery there. If you've got heights, you have edge protection. For the rest, fall restraint. That doesn't change. So why would you need to break down multiple heights when you've got height?
When described possible, is it not? When you, I guess it depends. Like, I think what you've touched on is key, though, right? That organizational context, and I think Des touched on it earlier too, didn't you, Des? Where we talk about within different levels of the organization, we'd be looking at it and talking about it different ways, right? So at a governance level, Andy, I don't disagree with you. Heights is heights, right? And our controls are our controls. And at a governance level, that is possibly sufficient. But then when you start getting down maybe to that more granular level, where you're Johnny on the spot, one type of height could be different to a different type of height. And therefore your controls would be different. And how you manage that.
How could height be different?
Well, no, the controls will be different. So how you manage working at height out of an EWP versus how you manage working at height on an unprotected edge versus how you manage working at height.
Your control's still edge protection, isn't it?
What's that?
I mean, if you're at height, you're trying to stop someone falling, and there's a finite ways in which you can do that, and that will apply to any height.
Yeah, but you'd want the controls to be specific to the context that the individual is facing, right?
Oh,
Otherwise,
so the edge protection may be different.
it could be, but height is
But
not
as long-
height. So it's
But
how
as
you're
long as there's
interacting
edge
with that
protection,
height, right?
but as long as there's edge protection there, I don't mind what it is.
You don't mind at your high floating consultant level, right? But Johnny on the spot might need some more clear, specific direction. And working at height.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're working at height, so if we go work, you could argue working on a roof with unprotected edges is working at height, right?
Yep.
Working hanging off a building, installing through rope access is still working at height, arguably. Yep. The controls are incredibly different, though. You can't tell somebody that's hanging off a building doing a specific task that they need edge protection.
No, but they can't do that. So then they go to fall arrest, which is what your ropes is, right?
Yeah, but and that's exactly what I'm saying. And that's where Des was going. How you describe the hazard, and therefore the controls, and therefore also talk about the level of or the different types of risk, is dependent on where you are in that organisation.
But you should be able to map them all the way up.
Don't disagree.
If I come out and see your guys working on the roof, and I look at the corporate risk register, it says working at heights. Is he working at heights? Yes. Then the three controls there probably are going to be something like edge protection, fall arrest, fall restraint. So then I look up and go, have they got edge protection? Yes, it's scaffolding. Have they got fall restraint? Yes, they're wearing a harness and it's attached to something. Have they got fall arrest? Yeah, they've got the inertia attachments on. So they haven't. How you communicate those controls might be different, but fundamentally the controls are the same. You're trying to stop the hazard leading to the harm.
You are, and that's I guess what I'm going at. It's how we describe the controls and how we describe the hazard, and therefore any associated risk differ depending on the context and the organisation.
Absolutely, and I think the thing here is the control is. Sorry, the control is the most important thing in all of this. But the only way you'll get the control right is if you've identified your hazard correctly. And that's why the hazard identification piece is so important.
And so here we go. That's a great question, Des. Jumping up to you because you've been a little bit quiet so far on the topic. So chicken and egg question here, and I'd love to see Andy's reaction when I ask this question. So would you suggest you have to identify the hazard before you can identify the risk?
Yeah, I would, and I'm kind of in Matthew Sadgrove's camp that without the hazard, there can be no risk. There's no relationship there. So how could you know what your risk is without first identifying what the hazard is?
I would suggest, depending on where you sit in the organisation and your level of understanding, you very much could have a bunch of people out there identifying risks without actually truly understanding the context of the hazard.
So can you give me an example of a risk then?
An example of a risk would be, I guess, falling from height, right? So
I think that's an outcome.
Well, the outcome depends on where you want to go, right? The outcome could be that the landing, right? So if you fall from height, that there's a risk of falling from height. So again, it's going to come down to
this is where So you've got to be careful because if the word risk becomes problematic again, because you start to say things like it's a risk, but it's the risk of. Now those two things are different. So we've got to decide whether we're talking about risk in the context. If you look it up in a dictionary, it means almost the same thing as a hazard. But if we're talking about risk management, you're managing something that doesn't exist. Risk doesn't actually exist. It's an abstract concept. It exists between 2 points. So you can't go out and identify risks. You've got to go out and identify hazards and then understanding the hazard by working out it's the risk of what. So people often say things like driving is a risk. It's not. It's an activity. You can't say what's the risk of driving. There's no answer to that question. But you could say what's the risk of what's the risk of me crashing while I'm driving? Then you've got point A and point B, and therefore you've got risk that exists between the two.
Okay, so here's a question for you then. Do you think for Johnny on the spot, so right now we're talking at an incredibly, I don't know, you could argue, well, maybe some more than others in the group are talking at a relatively high level. Do you think it really matters though for Johnny on the spot?
Yep, absolutely.
So you're going to want Johnny on the spot to determine whether he's identified a hazard or a risk. Is it not more important that he's identified that something's going to go wrong and what to do about it?
I think absolutely. I think that's what you should be doing. But I think the language that we use is really, 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 really important. And I think everybody should understand the difference between a hazard and a risk.
But it would suggest
if
that
we did that, safety would just get better. But at the moment, it's just a mess because when you look at GSAs, everything's all over the place. And when you talk to the workers, they don't really understand what's going on. They just end up writing stuff for the sake of writing stuff. And I think the cause of this, being an educationist, is there's a lack of education and understanding about the key terms, the foundations. They're not right.
Again, though, so do you think it will fundamentally make a difference to Johnny on the spot?
Yeah, absolutely.
By actually doing the work, whether he gets the chicken and egg or gets the exact outcome, or whether puts the right definition, the right thing in the right box, or the fact that he's identified there's a problem and what to do about it.
I don't think the two are separate. I think we want the same outcome. I think we're just disagreeing with the methodology. That I think the most important thing is to identify the hazard.
Oh no, I don't. I guess, I'll go back to what we've touched on it a couple of times in the conversation. It's around the organisational context, right? So my question is very specific. At the ground level, where it's Johnny on the spot, that's the organisational context that I'm painting. Do we think it really matters whether they put a hazard in the hazard box, a risk in the risk box, and truly get those two things right, or is it enough that they have identified a problem and they've clearly articulated what they're going to do about it, regardless of what box they put it in?
I think you would increase the likely if they put it in the correct box, you've increased dramatically the likelihood that they will put the correct thing in the control box.
Well, the control box is the control box, right?
But you've reviewed documents, you know that most things in control boxes are not actually controls.
Yeah, I don't dispute that, and I guess at an organisation, at a management level, at an organisational level, where you are as an organisation identifying what your hazards and your risks and associated controls. I guess in that context within an organisation, I don't disagree at all. I think it's really important that you put the time, energy, and effort to understand what is what and what goes where. But I guess my question is back to the organisation. How far down does that need to go? I guess is what I'm trying to understand and what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. Is does it really matter?
It's got all the way down. Absolutely, absolutely. It should be taught in schools.
I just think they should let them climb trees in schools, mate. That'll teach them. But that's another conversation for another day. So I guess then, Des, your thoughts. I guess we've started to jump into the next sort of question, right? In terms of hazard versus risk management. Interestingly enough, though, I'm just re-looking at the spinning wheel, and we've written it risk versus hazard management. So fascinating, isn't it? How the way we've framed it on the board would suggest that risk comes first, I guess, if we're really delving deep into it. But what we're talking about really is hazard, I guess, versus risk management. Or does that even matter, really? I actually don't know what matters anymore. Des, do you feel that it's got a place in safety vault, understanding the difference or hazard versus risk management?
I think it does, and I think it's not well understood. And if you might be able to do safety in the workplace without a good understanding of it, but you're never going to be great without making that clear distinction. To keep myself awake while you guys were talking, I was doing some Googling and went back to the Act.
We could hear you Googling. Yep.
Yeah. It was just to keep myself awake. And I looked at the Health and Safety at Work Act, section 30 something. Hang on, what was it? 36, the New Zealand one. 36, primary duty of care, subsection 2. Come on, guys. So it says a PCBU must ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, that the health and safety of other persons is not put at risk from work carried out as part of the conduct of the business or undertaking. And I took the definition of risk out of ISO 31000, which is the risk management standard, and substituted that definition for the word risk in that section. And you should be able to do that. You know, if something's talking about a dog, you should be able to substitute the word dog for the definition. That still makes sense. So this is how it reads. A PCBU must ensure, so far as is reasonably practicable, that the health and safety of other persons is not put at the effect of uncertainty on objectives, whether positive or negative, from work carried out as part of the conduct of the business or undertaking. Does that make any sense to you?
No. Mate, sorry, I was too busy reading the comments in the chat. Can you start that again?
No.
No, it's funny because
this is my case in point. Are we not overcomplicating this? Are we absolutely not overcomplicating this?
No, we're not.
Really?
Absolutely not. We're trying to simplify it. It's been created complicated unnecessarily. And I think going right back to legislation, it's not right. Look at the meaning. You've got the legislation up there. Look at the meaning of the word hazard. You've got the legislation up there? At meanings? There's meanings towards the end of the section.
Yeah.
Meaning of hazard. What does it say?
Very loud.
It's brilliant.
Loud keyboard. Hang on.
If anyone didn't believe that we made this up as we went, this is clearly an indication with the amount of Googling Des is doing as we're talking.
Okay, so section 16 of the Work Health and Safety Act New Zealand it lists hazard as including a person's behaviour where that behaviour has a potential to cause death, injury, illness to a person. Blah 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 blah.
I mean, there might be to me that's not helpful. You know, that's like saying the meaning of a vehicle includes ships. It's just stupid.
We're not here to talk about WorkSafe's or MB's definition of
45,000 has a definition.
Oh, it does.
I'm not done Googling yet, Brenton.
Here we go. We can tell.
So 45,001 defines a hazard as a source with a potential to cause injury and ill health.
Nice.
Back to my concern is: are we overcomplicating this for Johnny on the spot?
No, I don't think so. I think it is being complicated for everybody unnecessarily because of a lack of clear definitions. And unless that's fixed, we're just going to keep coming up with safety 27, safety 46. Yeah, we've got. It's ironic, right, that an industry that talks all about root cause analysis, we don't apply it to our own industry. The root cause is that things are really poorly defined. If we define them better, we might get some better outcomes.
Okay,
I've been reading a lot of WorkSafe documents this week. I do apologise to you and our listeners.
Anyway, we're digressing. I'm going to put it out there because I'm just going to tell you what my opinion is because I have that right. I'm going to say hazard versus risk management does have a place in safety, but I think it's incredibly important. And maybe this comes back to how it's being communicated more so than the actual thing. I think it's incredibly important, though, that when we look at it, it's all about organizational context and where about in the organization you're considering this and looking at this. So that's my kind of thoughts. So anyway, I don't think we need to kind of rabbit on about this because clearly we're putting Des to sleep. Des is putting me to sleep. And I just want to shout out to Graham Ryle. Listen, I don't even know Graham. Graham seems like a top bloke.
He's a great guy, Graham.
Using a thumbs up emoji and all that. How did he get merch, Andy? I am still drinking out of a stock standard cup. How has Graham got merch and I don't have merch yet?
Well, Graham's just a real nice guy,
Wow.
and
Wow.
he was on the ICAM course recently, and he laughed at the jokes. I mean, maybe there's a clue there.
Is this the said Graham that thought we prepared for the show?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome to the party, Graham. Welcome to the party. Hey, listen, just jumping along, because I know one of us actually has some work to do, and has to jump off real sharp at 9 a.m. But just kind of jumping in, any kind of real quick wrap up from you, Des, on hazard versus risk management?
I don't think I'll be able to state any of this better than Andy, but I think if anyone doubts that the show's unscripted, we should direct them towards season 2, episode 3. I think that's case in point right there.
Yep, cool, awesome. Andy, your wrap up.
The amount of work that went into scripting this to appear unscripted was staggering. But I think we got away with it.
Well, I'm just going to move on. Listen. I'm just going to harp on about this, and I think this is maybe something we need to chuck on the wheel, guys. I really think it is. And health and safety within an organizational context, understanding organizational context when it comes to health and safety, I think it's definitely a topic worth kind of looking at. Hey, just to kind of start wrapping up our show, big fan of our followers. Thank you to all of you. It's amazing the numbers continue to grow. Big shout out. We might lose a few after today, but that's okay, as long as the trend is upwards. But a shout out to our most recent follower, Tom Chamberlain. Now, Tom, good to see you join the show. I spent some time working with Tom at TNG Global Limited. He is a commercial manager for TNG Global, and he's based up in the beautiful Northland of Aotearoa, up there in Kerikeri. So, hey, Tom, big shout out. Great to see you join and become a fan of the show. As we kind of head off, just a quick wrap up. We have mentioned a few times the National Health and Safety Leaders Summit, where the 20th of March in Ellerslie, Auckland. It's going to be a cracker show, a cracker lineup of speakers. Just looking at the speakers now and a bit of a roundup here summary. Brett Murray, Chief Executive of SiteSafe. That's pretty exciting. Looks like we've also got Gareth Beck. He's going to be jumping in and joining us. I believe we're going to have representation from our man from WorkSafe joining us there today. So that is the Mr. Hazard, the newly appointed Chief Executive of WorkSafe, will be at the show. So that's quite exciting. So it's going to be a cracker show. Now, for our guests, for those of you that follow the show, if you haven't bought your tickets, get on there now, buy your tickets. Use the code CIRCUS2, CIRCUS, and the number 2 to get a staggering $200 off your tickets. So going to be an absolute cracker. Well, I guess that's a wrap, boys. Des, look after yourself, mate. I hope you got a good weekend planned.
Pretty quiet one, I think. How about yourself?
Thanks for asking, Des. I'm heading up to do some camping in Waipu. Going to be beautiful up in Northland this time of year. And Andy, anything exciting for you, mate, this weekend?
I'm down in the South Island next week. I'm flying down to Nelson on Sunday, down to Westport for a few days.
Oh, nice.
Watch
out, mate. There's an autumn storm coming, so take your brolly.
I will do. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Hey, great show, and look forward to catching up with you all shortly.
Thanks. Yeah.
See ya.